Have you ever wondered how to take all of your mismatched scrap yarn and combine it into a single cohesive project? The biggest challenge when you're stash busting isn't color theory, it's confidence mixing different yarns. Can you pair mohair with merino, cotton with a fluffy alpaca, and still hit the gauge the pattern needs? Normally that means math, which is why so many of us are like, nope, and make a scrappy rug. But I've designed a diamond block hoodie that's on a scraps only diet. And I've devised a cheat code to skip the scary math. And I'll show you exactly how it works in a minute, but just know it saves you so much time and second guessing. We're tackling yarn combining today because mastering this one skill is the key to unlocking all of your scrap yarn. When I first made my scrap yarn hoodie, I didn't have any system. I was literally just eyeballing the yarn sizes and crossing my fingers. I remember thinking this might turn out completely lopsided if these diamonds aren't the same size. Luckily it worked, but I knew I couldn't do it that way again. And we have some secrets that actually make this incredibly easy. I'm going to show you exactly how as I turn my scraps and stash into dialed in hoodie ready combos. You know, when you think you're organized and then everything comes falling out. Welcome to my studio and yarn stash. I keep my yarn organized by fiber, type, size. This is all wool alpaca, a really mixed bag of cotton and cotton blends, super chunky wools. I have a shelf of specialty yarn that's primarily like silk blends, a lot of hand-dyed skeins. Cotton, this is almost entirely from a little wholesaler near my house. Roving, this is all specialty hand-dyed, like super chunky mohair from a trip to Norway, which is really cool. You couldn't really get colors like this anywhere else, so that's some fun yarn. I'll like buy something to have a sample, and then once I decide to make a project out of it, I will then go and buy like the actual quantity that I need. It's not often that I stockpile yarn. This alpaca I used in a previous scrap yarn hoodie. I absolutely adore this yarn. So at the end of the season when it was on sale, I bought a bunch, but I also did just use it in this little beanie that I just made. It does tend to get used pretty quickly. I did a lot of the scrap yarn hoodie last time using yarn from Schapelwool. They're a German company, but they have a factory really close to my house. I can get like sample dyed packs. That's really fun to then pair with something else because they color change. It's like a built-in fun pattern. But in order to be able to use our scrap yarn effectively, we need to know how to combine that yarn to maintain the correct gauge. In all knitting and crochet projects, you usually have a gauge swatch that tells you how many stitches are going to fit in a certain space and make sure you are on track to make the right size of project that you set out to. There isn't a separate gauge swatch with the scrap yarn hoodie because each diamond is in effect a gauge swatch, which is pretty neat if you think about it. I use the same principle in my beanie pattern, in the puffed granny t-shirt, because if you get the little pieces right, your full pattern is going to be the right size. But to make a new diamond every single time you have an idea for a new yarn combination, that's just a total time sink. So my question here isn't what yarn do I have that would look cute together. It's really about the perfect gauge. But to really do it right, you need to do a little bit of math to figure out the combined weight. You can do this manually, or you can have something do it for you while you play around with color combinations. And spoiler, I made something for you that handles the boring bits. You can find out the weight of your yarn and size by normalizing it to the length per 100 grams and then do a nice little calculation to find out what their combined weights is going to be. I personally didn't mind doing the yarn math once, but I didn't want to have to do it every single time, so I made a calculator to do it for me. I've pulled up my yarn weight calculator, and for these examples, we're going to use new yarn that's still wrapped, just so that I can show you the length and the weight and kind of what we're calculating here so that you can replicate it in the future. And then for our third example, we're going to use scrappy yarn just like you might at home to figure out how you can kind of guess what that weight is without having to have saved the correct measurements for your yarn. Apparently, I'm the only person who saves details about all of their yarn on their phone. Maybe that's like a designer thing. My first yarn is this cotton viscose. It is 100 grams of weight and 250 meters long, recommended hook size 4.55. I'm going to punch that in as my first yarn, 250 meters and 100 grams. Normalizing it to 100 grams is the first step. This one happens to already be 100 grams. And then it says the yarn type or size name is DK, a little bit smaller than what we want. Next, I was thinking I might want to double strand it with this cotton wool. I have never used this before. It's 50 grams per 100 meters. So if I punch that in, 100 meters of yarn, 50 grams, that is 200 meters per 100 grams. And that says it's a worsted or Aran size yarn, which sounds exactly right. Combined, held together, then this makes this a bulky yarn on the lower end of bulky. For our second example, I hadn't built a yarn calculator before I made the first scrap yarn hoodie. I wanted to see after the fact if the calculation of their weight ended up saying that yes, they were the right size to be using on the project. So I ended up finding some with an actual label on it. So I have this alpaca little red stripy stitch that's super cute and fuzzy. So we have length 125 meters, weight 50 grams. That makes this a DK size yarn. Seems about right. And then this one that I stranded it together is this kind of fuzzy La La Berlin situation that is a lot smaller, I would say. But I guess we'll find out. The length is 250 meters and the yarn weight is 50 grams. So it says it's a light fingering. And then for the combined yarn weight, it says it's worsted Aran weight. So if I look on our chart, these two combine at that worsted Aran do make the correct size when used together. It's nice to have the yarn math confirm that my eyeballing of different sizes of yarn did work fairly well. What do we do if we only have scrappy yarn without any real indication of what the yarn weight is? I have this Puno that I think it's going to be more of a sport weight. So what I'm going to do after I've kind of cleared out my calculator, I'm ready for a new entry, is I'm going to look up what the sport weight per 100 gram length usually is and take right in the middle of it. So I'm going to put it right in the middle at 350 per 100 grams. Okay, we have our sport weights. We're tossing this guy in there, and then say I'm going to want to double strand it with this. I'm pretty sure this is a DK weight. So what is a standard DK weight yarn meters per 100 grams? Let's say about like 250. Do 250 meters per 100 grams. Says it's a DK weight. So it says these two combined are going to be a worsted Aran size at about 146 meters per 100 grams. Rather than telling you all the different combinations that you could try, I instead really want to empower you to take a look at what you already have and then be able to choose from that. Let's make some decisions. I have a lot of this one, 110 length and then 50. That's worsted, so I need something that's pretty small to go with it. What about the skinny cotton that I have? I Sport weight, 350 meters per 100 grams. Even though I usually double strand this, I think I only get one strand with this to hit the right gauge. I need to start an approved pile. Let's try this really chunky cotton that I love. 170 and 100 grams. This is gonna have some trouble because it gets to bulky really fast. Okay, so these two together are a no. These two would work together. I feel like I'm like swiping right on combos here, and those would look cute together too. I'm locking in a couple of color and yarn combinations. We know that the size is gonna work. We had to play around with the looks cute together part. We've solved the math. We've dug out our scraps and we started combining them so that we can actually turn them into a fabulous hoodie eventually. Next week, I'm remaking the entire scrap yarn hoodie pattern from scratch using the yarn that we picked out today. Access to the yarn combining calculator comes with the scrap yarn hoodie, but you also can get access to it if you sign up for my newsletter. I'll put a link below. It's free. If you want to crochet with me in the meantime, check out my crochet community, the Stitch Lab. We have weekly live crochet sessions as well as lots of inspiration, other fun things going on there. It's an incredible group of people and I'd love to crochet with you there. In the meantime, I'm Lee. Thank you so much for watching. Happy stash busting, and until I see you next time, happy crocheting.